seen these guys before. There's the body and the head. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to take you through the molding process. And what we're going to do right now is just start making the mold and how to set up to make a mold. So we're going to start off with the head. Bring in a head holder. This is the center of a roll of electrical tape. So you could use anything you want. Try to keep your costs down. Try to keep it simple. What we're also going to bring into the frame is some kicker for your crazy glue. We're going to use some crazy glue, basic crazy glue that you get off the shelf. We fashion the pin. This will be the injector pin where we pour our material. And this is a gate. That's so the air can leave the mold when you're pouring the material. And a simple ice cream stick. There it is, tongue depressor, whatever you want to call it. Every hobby shop has these. They're relatively inexpensive. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get your kicker ready, get your crazy glue ready, make sure a small little dot comes out when you need it. We're all ready to go. Here's the head, and what we're going to do is we're going to inject material through the chin part. So we're going to have to glue that right there and make sure it's nice and tight. So I'm making sure it's center in the front, center through the back, and typically it won't set up on a lot of different sculpting materials. So what you're going to want to do is use an accelerator. That accelerator will make it adhere, but it'll also make it weak. So you have to decide what you want: weak, strong, quick, fast. So what I do is I remove the accelerator. Now that it's already applied, it is attached, but what you have is a very weak joint. So what I'm going to do is quickly run a bead on the opposing side. I'm going to fill in that groove. And what you're going to get is we're going to let that glue dry naturally. So it'll take a few minutes. And just put that head back down. And even though it's not totally dry, we're going to set up the hanging part of this. So this head will hang inside of a mold. You're going to pour silicone into that mold, and it'll encapsulate the head. Then we cut the mold open and remove the head, and we should have a fantastic mold. So in order to hang it inside of a mold, all we're going to do is quick drop of glue. We're going to use your tongue depressor. We're going to hang it. So we're going to hang it off of the front side by about an inch, inch and a half, and off the back. And that's going to give you a platform to hang, make sure that your head is suspended. And I always do, hit it with some glue in the back. And now what we need to do is we need to add a gate here, from the back of the head all the way up to your depressor. And what'll happen is as you're pouring material in the mold this way, it'll evacuate all the air, and the air bubbles that get trapped and ruin your mold will eject out of this hole that we're going to create using a piece of metal. And I'll fashion one for you, and I'll get that right out. We're all ready to go. What we have is we need to add a sprue or an air vent right here. So I just fashioned a quick piece of metal with a small angle, and that will fit right in the back of the head. And same process, pretty simple. What you want to do is just a drop of glue, the front, the angle. This part gets a little bit complex because you're going to have to hold it for a little bit in order for the glue to start binding. And this is always a pain in the neck because crazy glue only works when it wants to, and typically on your fingers, right? So you're going to have to be patient. Okay, so it's semi-set. So I'm going to grab the kicker, hit it with a drop there. I'm going to hit it right here. Then I'm going to let that set. And pretty much that's it. You are all set up to make your mold and pour your silicone and pour the head for your bobblehead. So it's pretty cool. Very easy. This is a Dixie cup, I guess. It's clear, and I only have this clear one just to show you as an example what you're trying to achieve. What you're trying to achieve is this right here. You're trying to achieve that. So what you see is the head is suspended inside of a mold, which is a cup, right? Nice 1 penny, 2 pennies. Don't buy complicated things. You could use any container you find around the house, piece of cake. This is the way to go. And so that's what we're trying to achieve. Of course, as you can see, all that space at the bottom, this cup is just way too big and very costly to fill with silicone. Silicone will be your biggest cost, and that's all the time. So just try to keep your containers as small as possible. So what we're going to do is we have a simple 9-ounce cup, and of course it's not see-through, but that's okay. You get the idea. And all we're going to do is glue it right here, and that's your container. And we're going to glue it center. So it's centered 4 quadrants, right? So that you have enough space, enough silicone around, so that when you open up that mold. So it's pretty simple. All you're going to do is take that out. So what you want to do is in 2 quadrants, where the tongue depressor or wood stick is going to go, you'll just put some beads on opposing ends. Now, the real important part here is not to get a drip inside the cup. So if it goes inside the cup, it'll degrade the silicone, and the silicone will never set. So you really have to be careful about that. So grab your head. Okay, there we are, center. And you don't want to use your kicker now. Your kicker, if it goes in the cup, will also make sure that the silicone doesn't react and it will not set. So keep the glue out of the cup. Keep your kicker out of the cup. So while the glue is setting, sometimes the glue may drip and go down the cup, and you don't want that to happen. So what I did is I just grabbed a Q-tip, I bent it over, and I'll go exactly where the glue was first put down. Clean that off, make sure it's not running, and you should have a perfect mold. Alright, so now we're ready to make the mold for the body of the bobblehead. So as you can see, it's sitting here. It's awfully long. It's about 4.5 inches. And so what you want to do is, we need a container, of course, to make that mold, right? So we want to do something inexpensive. You don't want to buy something, you really don't want to make something, you don't want to waste that time. So what I was able to find, and you've seen this before, is this is a 12-ounce cup. But as you can see, it's way too big. So we're going to use 2 cups. And I'll show you what I mean by that. First thing we need to do, though, is secure this base. We're going to make the mold so that once we open the mold, it's going to be bottom up, base up, and that's where we'll pour out material. What we need to do is glue our bobble head and base to a material so that it's static and it's in one place. You can use foam core. That's what this material is right here. It's foam core. Also, what I have here, this is really cool. You should get some of this. This is like plastic corrugated. You see the corrugations right there? It's really, really cool because you could use it over and over and over again, and glue comes off of it right away. So once you have a piece, you could use it 1,000 times, or the rest of your natural life, as they say. So what I'm going to do right quick, I also have a simple glue gun. Everyone should have one of these. If you don't have one, get them. They're very inexpensive. You get them at any hobby shop. So what I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to put a bead around the base and secure that before it gets hard. You can hold that in place, twist it back and forth, and it'll secure, and boom, there you go. So as you can see, that doesn't work. So what I did in advance was I kind of used my brains just a real little bit. And here's the same cup. And what I did was I just cut off the bottom. There you go, cut off the bottom. Boom, fits right on top, right? So as you can see, what's really, really cool is there is space all around the body. That's where the silicone's going to fill in, so you need that. And all the way through the base. So you can see it's bigger at the base, and it comes up as a cone, and that's pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to secure this with the glue gun. It'll take 2 seconds. It'll be nice and quick. It'll be great. And then I'll show you how we top off the top in order to get a full mold. Alright, so just watch quickly. I'm going to look at the top, make sure it's center, and I'm going to put this bead all the way around. You should always push down from the top of the cup. If you hold it from the sides, you'll make the cup deformed. It won't be in a circle, and then that may give you some problems later on. That's all you need your glue gun for. Nice, it's all ready to go. So I see making this in a video is a little bit harder. As you can see, this is off to the side. That's alright, that's enough space for the silicone to bleed up, and we'll be able to make several copies. And there you go, see? Nice, it's all ready to go. So, real quick, what I did was I got another cup. This was a 9-ounce Dixie cup. How cool is that? So I'm using the logo right here as like a line. So I'm just going to cut off the top. I'm just going to go around. I'm using my fingers on this side and this finger as a guide so it's somewhat straight. And it doesn't matter because you're pouring a liquid. Silicone is really a liquid. It's a thick liquid, and it'll level off itself at whatever height you decide to put it at. There's your bottom, there's your top, here's your mold, and boom. Now we could just pour silicone inside there and fill it up to whatever level we want, and we have a working mold. Now, before you do that, what we're going to do is use our trusty crazy glue again, right? Everyone needs crazy glue. And so what we're going to do right quick is we're just gonna touch the edges. We're going to make sure that the crazy glue stays on the outside of the mold, not on the inside, right? We discussed this before, that crazy glue will not make silicone set up. So we're just going to hit it in a few places. And what's great is because they're both conical shaped or cone shaped, this will just attach to where it needs to be attached to. Hold it a few minutes. Okay, I need more crazy glue in certain places. Here we go. This should be it. And hold that, let it set. Okay. So what I did was I prepared some silicone, and here it is. It's already pre-mixed. I pre-mixed it, and it's already relaxed. Relaxed meaning all the bubbles, most of the bubbles are gone, but that's okay. They leave in time. So now we have 2 molds ready to go. This is the head, and here's the body. So what we're going to do is we just need to pour that silicone inside of the mold and get it to proper height and let it relax and sit overnight and have all those bubbles gas out and just evacuate the mold. So here's our pre-made silicone, and what I'm doing is I'm using a spatula, and what we're going to do is just drizzle it inside of the mold. Okay, so as you can see, we're filling up that mold. These are 1-quart cups, and I put 10 ounces of silicone in it. It's easy to work with 10 ounces. It's easy to stir, it's easy to degas, and that's what you want to do, is make sure everything's working. Okay, so we poured in 1 10-ounce cup, and now we're going to have another 10-ounce cup pour in. And we're pouring nice and slow. And in that stream, if there are bubbles, the bubbles will pop if that stream is nice and thin. So that's what we're doing. We're making a nice thin stream. And we're going to top it off. We have to cover up that little button, that neck piece. So if you remember, we made the head, and here's the head and the mold. And that's ready to go, and that's ready to accept its silicone. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to drizzle it in. We're going to hit that. We're going to hit that tongue depressor just to break up that silicone so it doesn't hit the head and knock it off its pins. And don't worry about air bubbles getting trapped underneath the head. Those bubbles will be pushed out by the silicone. And as you can see when you zoom in, you can see that there are trapped bubbles and they're coming to the surface. Here's one at the surface, and that bubble will pop on its own once the surface tension releases. It'll just pop, and you'll see in the other mold there are a couple of trapped bubbles that are coming up to the surface. Eventually they'll make their way up. It'll be a few hours, and those will pop once the surface tension releases also. So it's good to go. And we'll get to cutting them and opening them up and casting off. Okay, for this episode, opening the mold, the simple tools that we're going to use is a needle nose plier, a spreader, X-Acto knife, and clipper. And a spreader is an interesting tool. This is a tool that you could open your mold and spread it open so that you could cut into the mold deeper, and I'll show you how that works as we get into it. So let's get to cutting your mold. Okay, so here's our mold, and you can see the head is solidified inside the silicone. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this open so that we could remove the sculpted head easily and put the tool back together so that we could cast the liquid resin and create a new head for our bobble. So what we want to do is keep the knife straight to the rim of the head without going all the way through it, because as you can see, there's a hole in there, and then there is silicone, and you don't want to cut that off, and I'll show you why once we open this up. And what I do is I wiggle the knife back and forth, and I just go in as deep as I can without getting really deep into the mold. And that wiggling will help you position it when you put it back together. So it'll only go on one way, it won't go on two ways, sideways. Okay, so, and once we meet the cut on the opposing side, we'll get our spreader. This is where it comes in, and you'll just stick that in there, and what you're going to do is you're going to cut deeper. So you're going to spread the mold open, you're going to spread it open so you can get your tool in there, and you're just going to follow that all the way around. Just pull that out, and there's the core, and that's what makes the opening, and this is where the neck of the bobble and the spring is going to go. So you need to keep that on your tool. Okay, now to remove the head, we're just going to go down the back. Simple line right down the back. It'll be hidden within the hair, and we're going to do the same thing. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to pull this out. And there it is. We have a perfect mold. And the inside looks like the person we're going to cast. We're going to clean that up a little later. And there's your mold, fitting perfectly back together. And that's how we cast into that, and we get an exact replica of the sculpture. We're going to work on cutting open the mold for the body, and so it's really simple. You just break it off. there it is, 2 pieces. And you could use this again probably hundreds of times, so you want to save that. So this is a little bit more complex, and it's different plastic, so it's harder to open. So I'll just work at it and I'll make that happen for you. I'm just going to start right here. I'll do the same thing for the bottom. Okay, I cut through that. And here we go. So there's your bobble inside your solid silicone. And this is ready to cut open. And I'm going to show you how we do that. And this takes even shorter time than cutting open a head mold. And as you can see, it looks pretty simple. His body is linear, it's straight up and down, so it's no big deal. What you're going to do is just cut across. You're going to try to get all the way down, and I think the hand should be okay. I think that'll cast off and fill up on its own. Remember, it's going to be poured upside down. This will be the opening, and the material and bubbles will all be able to come up straight to the top and come right out of here. Okay, so let's get going. On the second side, I'm just going to go right through. This is a piece of cake. As you can see, the silicone is very, very soft. We'll get into what silicones to use and what durometers and what suppliers at a later date. So I'm going to use that spreader right quick. Spread that open. Just going to cut right down that cut line. Your first cut line is your initial cut line. That'll be your guide all the way through. Okay, I think we're good. So we'll just spread that open. And you don't have to worry if you break your master pattern, right? That's why we're making a mold. That's the great thing about having a mold of your work, is that even if you break this pulling out of the mold, it doesn't matter, because you could just cast one right away. So you could have another master without doing any of the sculpting. That's the cool thing. And of course, if you have an order for 20 or 30 or 50 of these, you have the mold. So, and we'll just pull that out. And it didn't break. That's pretty cool. So here that is, and here's your mold. Empty, ready to accept a 2-part resin, and we'll be able to cast up that part, and we'll get into casting right now. Awesome. Let's make it happen.